We're live on Adobe Radio. Another great episode. Today we are with Mike Pecci. I said it right.
You did. You got it.
I'm always nervous saying the guest's last name or first name when we do this.
Completely sympathize. I do the same thing.
I'm really excited to speak with you, but before I do, I want to make a public service announcement for people. Check to see if your passport has expired. Okay? Don't be in a frantic state like I was this morning in trying to do that whole form and praying to God that it comes in time before you go on a trip or whatnot.
Did you pay the extra money and get it expedited?
Yeah.
So they sometimes do that pretty good.
Yeah. So I'm really hoping it's gonna be A-okay.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
I did not realize it expired this year in July. So good for me. That's okay. First world problems. Hey man, I had a blast on your podcast with Lance. Right place, right time, and you also do another one, In Love with the Process.
Yes. Yeah, I do too many podcasts. Yes.
That's it was probably one of my favorite guest podcasts I've ever done. We spoke for like 2 hours. I can't wait for the episode to come out. And it was really cool to vibe with you. I know Lance from class, and he was a guest here on the show. And you were so kind enough to give me links to your work. And something super unique that you do is you have people ask you.
Yeah, you have to get my permission.
Yeah, to watch your own movies.
Yeah.
And why?
Well, I feel like, okay, so what the normal process for a filmmaker is you go, you make a short film, you spend all your own money, you convince all your friends, and you make something, and then you go, cool, this is great, and then you submit it to film festivals, maybe you get in, maybe you don't get in, and then the movie just sits there. And the move is I'll dump it on YouTube, and it goes up on YouTube, and I'll get all sorts of hits and all sorts of traffic. Unless your movie's about like eating cheeseburgers and like, you know, scratching puppies, you know, bellies, it's really not going to instantly get that kind of traffic. And for me, we put too much damn work into this film to just sort of throw it into this sea of content that just sort of disappears immediately. And so what I mean, it's twofold. Look, I made the short films that I made as proof of concepts for feature films. And so the people that needed to see those films have seen those films, like studio execs, production companies. That's the purpose of them. So when you send out a feature film script as a first-time director, even though I've been doing it for like 20-something years, someone that reads a script cold processes what they're reading based upon what they like. So I might write a script and an exec will go, Goonies, and I'll go, no, it's not Goonies, you know, it's something else. And they go, but I read it as Goonies, and so I don't like Goonies, so it's done. And so what I like to do is create proof of concept movies, which most people are doing right now. I didn't invent that. So I send out a proof of concept film that they watch, and they get the whole vibe, they get the whole tone, they get everything. So before they start to read the script, they go, oh, I know what Mike's gonna do with this. This is pretty fucking rad. Now that's why I made 12 Cam, Who's There, and even the new one, Come Home. They were proof of concepts to go with feature films. So I made them, talked to my agents and management. They sent them out. I had meetings. Mission accomplished. With the podcast, I was talking on the show all the time about these movies and how we made these movies and everything that was happening. And a lot of the fans were like, well, how can we see these movies? And I was like, well, if you want to see them, you send me your 3 favorite horror movies. And if I agree with you, then yeah, all right, I'll send you the link. And that started as sort of like me being a dick on the show.
I like that a lot. I actually do, because there is something about that we've lost reverence to a certain degree in soaking up anything we do or watch. Yeah. I love the days of going out to rent a movie or rent a video game. I feel that was an adventure in itself, because you got to go, you got to search, you got to look at the box, you got to read the description. You've got to take in account like, my buddy said this was good, or the store clerk was like, oh, you got to check this out. Yeah. And you go home, and that took time, that took effort. You invested in that, so naturally you would want to really focus in and engage properly and respectfully with whatever you're gonna play and
Sure.
and everything. And even if it sucks, you're like, I'm watching this thing through.
Yeah.
Because I paid money for
Because
it.
I went through the whole process. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's a big part of it. Like, I remember the days of, I'm going to age myself here, but I remember the days of going to like the mom and pop video store, and I'd walk up to the counter with whatever VHS that like, everybody was talking about and slide across the counter. And I had sort of a snarky guy that worked it there, and he's like, really? You're going to get this one? And he was like, how about you go get the movie that this is ripping off? And I'm like, oh, and as a kid, I looked up to this guy because he worked in what a fucking cool gig,
Right.
You work in a video store, you watch movies all day. And so that in itself is essentially why I did this. And it's funny, sometimes I get shit for it, which is my favorite. Sometimes I get shit from people where they're like, why are you gatekeeping, bro? Like, what are you gatekeeping for? And I'm like, do you understand how you realize that the rest of the industry is gatekeeping everything for you.
Yeah.
But it's fine. I guess you can't really bitch out Disney. You can get in touch with me, though, so call me up. And so these guys like to complain about it. And I say to them, like, look, here's the deal. Initially, I'm not asking you for any money, especially with 12 Cam. I don't ask anybody for cash. But all I'm asking you to do is engage. And for me, it's like putting on a screening, which I've done. If you rent out a theater and you put on a screening as a director, I'll stand in the doorway while everybody walks in. And I'll go, hey, what's up? Because I want to meet everybody that comes into the screening. I want to know who's interested. I want to know who loves horror. I want to know why they love horror. And if I do a Q&A like we did last night with one of our screenings, I want to engage. And it's so funny. We were at the screening last night, and the moderator is like, whatever. And they're there, and she's like, so does the audience have any questions? And she's like, just put your hand up if you have any questions. And everybody just sort of sits there like there's this cringe fear that just runs across everybody. And they're like, oh, I really don't, And I put my hand up, and I start asking questions of them, and I start asking questions of the people next to me because, dude, at the end of the day, we spend like fucking so much time to make these things. And to not get any response and to not enjoy it with people, it's like, why am I doing it,
Yeah.
So what it does is, long story short, what it does is it turns it into sort of like this speakeasy vibe where like you have to come in, you have to tell me your stuff. I respond to everybody, which has been a nightmare because 12 Cam went viral 2 years ago. And I think I sent personally in the year and a half, 55,000 DMs was what I responded, which was pretty crazy. And then the viralness of that one, I think it's been seen by, like the viral video itself, which was the promotional video, I think it's been seen by like 10 million people, 11 million people.
I, to be completely honest with you, after doing your show and thinking about it, I've scrolled through, I don't know how many TikTok videos in my lifetime now, or Instagram Reels, but I have come across your movies or somebody commenting that, hey, you can't watch this person's stuff without messaging them first. And I don't remember how I responded, honestly. It probably wasn't good.
You're probably like, this
fucking guy, another person.
Yeah.
But speaking about it now, I honestly don't remember. I really don't remember how I responded.
I like how you're prepping me because I'll find it.
You probably, probably.
And you'll be like, this fucking asshole.
But no, it makes more sense now with everything. And kind of going into, I want to talk about film festivals in general, but real quick, Lance did phenomenal.
Yeah, he's
Come
great.
Home.
Yeah, he's great.
Oh my gosh.
He's great, man. Like I'm hoping that he gets some sort of award for it because the work he did in that movie, he was so committed. And so we did this movie as a response to a couple features that I've had in development for a while. And so the whole development process out here is kind of a nightmare. And you just sort of go through multiple rewrites and you're talking to people and they're like, this is great, it's going to get greenlit. And what you're doing is you're dealing with like a lot of junior execs who actually don't have the power for anything. So like you go through, 12 months of work and then they're like, let me show my boss. And then suddenly like whatever's going on in the current climate suddenly just goes like, well, no one wants to. And so then the movies just get dumped. And I was, after going through like this long process of trying to get this one off the ground, I was incredibly depressed. Like I got therapy. That was why I got therapy, was because of this business. Like there hit a point where I had to get therapy to just process, the fucking blatant disregard for hard work that this industry has.
Wow, it affected you that much?
Oh, dude, I was in a rough place. And so Lance and I had been friends for quite some time. The big running joke with Lance is that when we first started working together, he would either be working on the cruise or I'd hire him to come in and be like, dude, I need a set of arms. Can you just come in and be a set of arms? Or I need a over the shoulder. I need you to just be a shoulder. And then I asked him to do this movie years ago, and I said, I want you to play the leader of a moped gang. And it's going to be like this cool sort of grindhousey horror thing. And he goes, awesome. And I go, you're going to wear a helmet the whole time. So like his face has never been in any of the movies. And this is a big running joke. And while we were all bummed out, or I was really bummed out, Lance and I become really close, and he would come over and he would talk to me about stuff. And we did a podcast together where we had Judith Weston on the show, who wrote the books Directing for Actors, I think is the name of her book.
Judith Weston?
She's great. And we had her on the show, and I started to read her book. And while reading her book, I was like, holy shit, how did I ever call myself a director before this? And so like really sort of changed everything for me. And so because Lance being an actor and he was also reading it, we were just sort of really sort of pontificating over what we're reading and processing how I can make it work in my business and how he can make it work with what he does. And we sort of hit a point where he's like, why don't we just do a scene or something? Why don't we just shoot something? And I was kind of like, depressed. And I'm like, I guess. And he's like, no, we should do something together. And so then we started just sort of working on this character. And we worked on that character for about 5 months, I think, 4 or 5 months. And it was just us coming together and having conversations and going through these different techniques and sort of building out this character together. And I was like, this is kind of cool. Like, you're doing pretty good stuff. We should shoot it. And then we got together and I was like, all right, we'll just do the scene. We'll just do a scene in the garage. And so I'll get a crew together. I'll get some gear together. And so we went out there and we shot this scene for 2 days. And then I looked at it in the edit, and my fiance looked at it in the edit, and she goes, this is great, but this can't be it. You should continue. You should continue to make this more. And I'm like, I just want to, I was so depressed. I was just like, I just want to make a fucking scene. I don't want to. She's like, no, you should do more. And I was like, I don't know. And so then we ended up getting an underwater tank, and then we ended up doing monster effects, and I met these monster guys. And so what that movie did, I remember there was a point when I was cutting it, and I was putting these pieces together, and suddenly it relit that passion flame where I went, ooh, this is it. This is it. This is what I'm supposed to do. I'm good at this fucking thing. This is really great. And so then the two of us, me and Lance, just really worked on this thing with a great crew for a little while, like a couple months. And the piece is probably the best piece I've ever done. And his work in it, like I won Best Directing at FilmQuest, and what I told them there was like, should go to Lance, because he just did really great stuff on screen, and I figured out how to shoot it really awesome. So he's a great partner at this point. I think he's awesome.
I was really impressed. Visually, it was, I was so happy to watch something good, because I've gone to film festivals where, it's some of the most terrible stuff I've seen, and I'm like, how does this get accepted into this big film festival? And what's the criteria? Who is saying, okay, yeah, this is good to be in here? Like, why was this put in here? And I understand this. In any type of journey a creative has, you can't be so critical on someone who maybe is like year one into acting and they're trying hard, but still they're like shit. Like, so you're like, you can't be like, you fucking suck, you're doing this wrong. Like, it doesn't, of course they're going to suck.
Sure.
They're year one.
Sure.
A year one director is going to suck compared to a year 20 director.
Sure. So
I understand that, but at the same time, like, where is the criteria? Man, I am exhausted, guys. for those of you listening from this week and last week's episode, we did double up one day after the other, and I'm sorry for slurring my words. Is that the word?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh my God.
What am I getting? Like half you?
Half-
I feel. Listen, you came to our house. We gave you 100%.
You know what? We're gonna take a commercial break. No, we're gonna take a commercial break, and when we come back, Full Wesam's coming back.
We'll be right back.
We'll be right back. And we're back. Okay. No, I'm 100% with you right now.
Yeah.
I promise you
I'm
this,
just giving you
Mike.
shit. I'm just giving you shit.
I know. No, I really had a good time with you on the podcast. But going back to these film festivals, they're terrible. Some of the films that I've got into them are just absolutely terrible. No, I'm being serious.
Yeah,
I'm
hot topic.
Yeah, but it's still, you're so blunt that it's funny.
Yeah, because this is the part that bothers me.
Yeah.
I am willing to give leeway to one aspect of the film to be shitty.
Okay, that's good. Well, thank you. No, I got you.
Like for instance, the shots, but then the actors are really good and the story's great.
Sure.
It's shot really well. The actors are doing their best. It looks pretty, but the story's kind of Okay, maybe. All right, cool. But all across the board,
Yeah. Look. Let me help you out.
I'm angry, Mike.
Let me help you out. With this. So, look, before we submitted Come Home to a bunch of festivals, I had a real bad taste in my mouth about film festivals. And so I did a long-running sort of rant on In Love with the Process about this, where I was just like, fuck film festivals, fuck this whole ordeal, money grab. And so when we released this movie, I knew that I didn't need to send it to film festivals. When we had this movie done, I immediately just sent it out to all the people that I needed to send it to, because I've built over 20 years of relationships with like different producers, and I have reps, so it's great. It's easy. But I knew that for Lance, as a independent actor, what you need is you need to be seen by other directors. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you need to form those relationships. And what's really helpful for actors, and if you're a young director out there and you do submit to film festivals, consider this, especially if you like your actors. What's helpful is that Lance is screened, and I'm there as a director that made something, and I'm talking to other directors about him as an actor. And so it's very helpful for career stuff. And so I was like, all right, I have to do some film festivals for Lance. That was my big thing. And so we sent it out everywhere. And there are fucking scam film festivals. You have to be really careful when you submit. You have to do your homework. You have to look at what their past festivals are like. If you can and you have the ability, you can reach out to other directors and ask other directors what it was like for them. If not, just go to their social media and see what they post about the film festival. If it's just fucking selfies in front of like a step and repeat, get the fuck out of here. But if you actually see like parties and like hangouts and all that kind of stuff, then it's probably a good festival. And I think that the problem that you have, if I may, with festivals is the same problem that I have. It's the programmers. And it really depends on who's running that festival. The cool thing about doing horror is that the genre festivals, I think, are the best festivals out there right now.
Oh.
So like we did Film Quest. There's, what's the name of it? It's the one that takes place at the Shining Hotel, Outlook or something. That place is really cool. And of course there are a lot of the big boys in the genre film festival. But genre dudes and girls typically love horror. They love that kind of stuff. So like the screenings are great. They put on really great parties. They actually have like really interesting director or filmmaker only lounges. So like throughout the whole film festival, if you traveled out there and you spend a lot of fucking money, you submit to it, you spend the submission fees, and then you pay to fucking fly out and you do all this other stuff, they'll actually put together like hot spots in that area where you any time of day can go hang out, and there might be another filmmaker there, could be someone else there. And what's even better about it is that after screenings, and this is what we dealt with last night, drives me crazy. You finally screen your fucking movie, and then they're going to do some Q&A, but they're always rushing their Q&A. They're like, okay, great. We have 5 minutes to have a conversation. And I'm like, I get it, because you're renting this theater out and you need to stack as many things as you possibly can, but maybe you should just usher the entire audience into some fucking lounge or into some bar, because these people all want to talk. I want to talk to the other filmmakers that I screen with. Like, that is the whole purpose for being here. It isn't just that you can make ticket sales off my movie and not pay me anything for it. But so I think the big issue that I had, especially with the festival that I was in last night, is that they don't know how to program. And so when you go, they're going after like whatever sort of hot topics are happening right now, where they're like, okay, I need to make sure that there's a certain amount of movies that have a woman lead. I need to make sure that there's a certain amount of movies that do this. And for me to qualify for Oscars, I need to make sure I do this and this and this and this and this. And so then when you look at the lineup, you're just like, why is my movie in this fucking lineup? And what sucks as a director, and you make something that is, I don't want to sound arrogant, but you make something that is elevated, suddenly you're in a lineup with like 5 or 10 real fucking stinkers that start the whole thing, and the entire audience's mood just changes. So by the time they get through like 60 minutes and they get to your piece, they're exhausted. And they're just like, oh. And so then when you, like when I designed this piece, I did this intentionally. If you watch Come Home, there's a title screen that comes up, it goes, wham, and it's got the thing, and it resets you, and then it goes into the music. Mm-hmm. I knew that I'd be programmed that way. So I knew that I needed to hit the audience in the face and go, guys, I know you had to sit through a lot of stinkers, but like, here's a fucking quality piece. Bam. And what they did in the festival, which was smart, is they used my piece as the palate cleanser for like 3 or 4 really great pieces that came after mine. But it sucks.
Well, I think that is just an attest to like how good of a storyteller you are, because, and I'm being for real. Come Home, I was really pleasantly, not surprised, pleasantly like enjoy. Oh my God, what is going on with me today? Fuck.
I love it, dude. All this stays in. This all stays in.
This all stays in, and I'm always real with my listeners.
Don't cut any of this out. This is how he is in real life, everybody. It's the real guy.
But your awareness of how the person is viewing it is so critical. Yeah. Because I tell my actors, like, hey, acting is not masturbatory. You're doing this to show people, right?
Yeah.
So like you have to make sure that they're going to enjoy it too. You might be connected with your scene partner, and you might feel so like, wow, this is amazing. Like, whoa, wow, so connected. But then from the audience perspective, it's just you two talking like this. Can you hear me?
Sure.
Yes, I can hear. And that's going on for like 4 minutes straight. And you're like, wow, this is really boring.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's really cool that you have that awareness, especially like in how it's going to be viewed. And even separately, it gets your attention. And it's like, oh, okay, I'm ready to buckle up here.
Yeah. I mean, the question is like, what kind of driver are you? Are you someone that uses your mirrors? Or are you someone that doesn't use your mirrors? And you should be using your fucking mirrors. Like, you should be looking around. You shouldn't just be like, I'm on one straight path, I'm going to drive in that fucking direction. You should be looking before you put your turn signal on.
Yeah.
While you're in the middle of fucking TikToking. And you're going to run into 3 people on the right. Like, actually look around. And with acting, especially stage acting, I would assume that that's a big part of it, where like you're putting stuff out there and you're like, oof, the audience didn't respond to that. Like, you can hear when it's quiet. And the thing that sucks about filmmaking is that you really can't see that until you're actually in a room with an audience. And so what you're trying to do as you put a movie together is what I do is I have like all these different stages of people that I have watched the movie, knowing how they watch movies. So that way I can kind of just sort of sit next to them and go, oh, that didn't land. Okay, great. This is confusing. And they go, yeah, let me give you some notes. Don't give me notes. I know why it's confusing because I watched it with you. So I'll go and I'll fix this and this and this and this and this. So that when you finally get into the audience and you're in a space and you can hear it and go, yes. Like, because everything is, especially in horror, a lot of people think that horror is just jump scares. Horror is suspense. That's what it is. You're just building suspense for everything that happens in the movie. It could be suspense, but like you're reaching for a doorknob and what's behind that door. It could be the suspense in a dialogue scene between 2 people. How's he going to respond? Oh, we know something that he doesn't know. Like, you're just doing all that shit.
Yeah.
And suspense is timing. and suspense is pacing. And so 5 frames between an edit can really fuck the whole thing up. And what happens when you're doing stuff as a director, and I saw it in my movie last night, and my fiance has been telling me for a while that this cut was wrong, and I watched it last night, and I was like, that bitch, she's right. So like, really, as a filmmaker, you sometimes get like this tunnel vision. You start driving straight. You don't look at mirrors. And you're like, and as you look at it, you go, oh yeah, this cut's gonna change everything. This is gonna make my fucking career. Like the way and usually it's I got a big old crowbar, and I'm trying to cram something into this thing that it doesn't need to be there, and you have to go through this long process of watching it with other people, seeing it in other spaces, to see if your idea was right. And then you start to humble yourself a bit more. And then you start to understand, like, look, I can have the coolest idea in the world that I write on a fucking pad at my desk, but it's one-dimensional. It's coming from my perspective. That's it. And what makes movies great is, like, we work together. I call you up, and I'm like, I got this idea. And you go, that's a cool idea. Mm-hmm. But what if, and I go, oh, yeah. And we talked about it on the show. Then you walk around this idea, and suddenly this idea becomes three-dimensional. And suddenly becomes something that's really interesting.
Peyton is a director. Would you share some of these same experiences whenever you did the 5-second horror? What is it? The 5-second?
The 60-second.
60-second horror film festival. Did you share some of these experiences?
Yeah,
creating yours.
Yeah, it was just kind of a thing though. I feel like my experience isn't the same as yours because with that I flew to a location where like I knew I had people back home and everything, and we legit had 4 hours to do it. Whatever came out.
To shoot it?
Yeah. Because I was only visiting, like, so I flew. I'm from Oklahoma. I flew back there, and
Nice.
I know like some film majors from Oklahoma. I knew some actor friends from Oklahoma. It was just like if I can get them in the same room for 5 hours, we can do this thing. But then I'm going back home. Once it's shot and it's done, it's done. So like, just I will do what I think is right. All in that moment, and again, it's 60 seconds, so you got to make the most of what you got. But once it's done, it's done.
60 seconds is hard, dude. I mean, 60 seconds is... Shorts are hard, right? Because I don't know if you feel the same way, but we come at it from loving features so much.
Yeah.
So with a feature, you just have a lot of time. You've got a lot of time. But you have more time to be able to go, all right, I'm going to build some tone. I'm going to build some mystery. I'm going to start to introduce characters. I'm going to build some suspense behind these characters. But 60 seconds is like doing commercial work.
Yeah.
It really is, where in the commercial work, you have to be like, okay, heavy-handed to a certain extent because we don't have time to be subtle about any of this shit.
Yeah.
And then like what is the technique that I'm going to use? And then once again, it's like, how do I crowbar in shit into 60 seconds? 60 seconds is tough, dude.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to do. And if you can do 60 seconds right, then it really starts to change how you process how features are done. And then you go, oh, okay. Like I maybe I don't have to be so pretentious with this. Maybe there is something that comes with placating the audience a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, like I was getting feedback last night. And this is the other thing that sucks about screening in a lineup like that. So if you watched my film because I sent you a link, right, you're excited. You're just like, I'm pumped. Like, I went through this whole exchange. I'm talking to the director. I wish I had that. I wish I could have written a, like, Rub Zombie or somebody when I was a kid and have him send me a fucking link, you know? So immediately you're just like, holy shit, cool. So when you sit down, you prep everything, right? You're like, get out of here, you know, you tell your parents you're going to go in your room and watch something other than what you usually watch. Or you're going to, you know, put together your friends and have your friends come over and you're like, I'm dedicating this time to sit down and watch this thing. So when you start it, you're already excited and you already have sort of like the suspension of disbelief. And as long as I don't fuck that up in the first, 5 seconds of the piece, then you're in and it's great. But when you watch it and you're exhausted and you've seen a lot of similar themes, this is the programming aspect. You see a lot of similar themes done horribly prior to it. So then when you start watching my piece with all of that residue that goes into it, then people are like, oh, yeah, some of your music cues were kind of hammy and this was kind of hammy. And I go, no. it just felt that way because you had to sit through like 5 or 6 different versions of the same fucking thing before you got to my version of the thing. Like if you had seen mine clean, you would have been like, it's fucking awesome. And I have proof of that. So it's all about setting expectations. It's all about understanding that stuff. And to bring it back to what you were saying, 60 seconds is a great place to play with that and really go, how do I get the audience's attention quickly? How do I tell a story in 60 seconds? But does that story actually have to have a structure? I don't know if it does, you know? So.
Yeah.
You know what? I think you've inspired me whenever I send a self-tape. In order for the casting director to see my self-tape, they have to write me a letter.
Yeah, I was waiting. Yeah, I think it's great. They should have to like thumbprint.
Yeah.
They should send a photograph of them like shutting their phone off, even though they have to use their phone to do it. They have to send a photograph of them like putting that away, you know, like closing their lunch and not eating their lunch while they do it, you know.
Yeah. I really do miss being in the room, and I've done it one time where I was in the middle of a scene, and the person reading with me wasn't being disrespectful, but they were in the lines, and it was a really intense moment, and I as the character I said, "Look at me," and then everybody in the room kind of like stood up.
Great.
Yeah. But it was just like in the character, and just to kind of regain their attention again was really cool.
That should be your improv in every reading.
Yeah.
Like, I think the character should say, "Look at me." We talked a lot about casting on our show when you came on our show. Like, I have nothing but the most respect for actors. I love actors, and I think just to have the balls to like be able to do things that you would never do in real life, to do things that to basically put your heart on the sleeve and be incredibly emotional in front of a room full of like salty grips. You know, I love it, man. And as I now spend more time working with actors and sort of discovering the process with actors, dude, there's nothing better than being a director and you go into the edit room and you've got a bin full of like 5 clips and you sort through those clips and you find something special. And it isn't the fact that you said my lines the right way. It's not the fact that you did exactly what I said on set. It's that weird little thing that you did, and like weird little decision. I think we talked about this. When I cut, what I do is I scrub through footage, and oftentimes I'll scrub high speed, and I'll just go, and I'll scrub front and back. So I'll reverse it and do forward, and I'll look for that little weird thing. So oftentimes it's like this little move or this little glance. Like Lance, like Come Home's loaded with them, where Lance does like this, like after he comes out of the dream sequence and there's a knock on some weird drawer, and he does this whole like thing. Like I found that first, and I was like, oh, there it is. That's the reason to watch the whole fucking scene, is that little thing he did. And so then I'll build everything backwards off of that moment. And so
I think that's because he has that disease, honestly. That disease, and that's all I'm gonna say for HIPAA reasons. Sorry, continue.
Yeah. So, but that's what you're looking for as a director, and so that magical thing, the fact that an actor can get to a place where they're comfortable and they're not being the character and they're not being anything other than themselves with the preparation that they put into it, you're like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
And those are the people you want to work with all the time.
It's such a simple thing where it's just being real in the moment. Simple but not easy, you know, because I always get taken out of horror films whenever the character does something without proper motivation, out of character, out of, you know what I mean? Like, wait a minute, like that was all good and real. I was in it, except for that one part where it felt like it was either bad direction or the actor is like, fuck it, I'm just gonna phone this in. You know, I can't tell what the issue is there.
Usually bad direction. I mean, that's usually the sign of the crowbar being pulled. And like they're like, well, no. What needs to happen in this scene is this and this and this. And I know what you're doing, but what needs to happen, instead of having, and I think that's also a sign of like bad homework, right? Because if you and I are walking through a script and you're rubbing up against it, and you tell me ahead of time, and you go, this is an issue. And I go, well, it's my fucking movie though, so just do it. You know what I mean?
That's crazy. If a director said that to me, I'd be like, deuces.
But or if you're like, you know, like I'm like, all right, well, where were you going? Like, why do you like to go that way? Oh, that's interesting. And then, all right, I'm supposed to be shifting. Like, as a creator, I'm supposed to be. We're on these like tectonic plates that are always fucking moving, man. And so, if you're bringing me something weird and cool, now that I'm older and I'm confident and I'm not insecure, because it's insecurity that really fucks movies up. So now that I'm not insecure about it, I go, oh, weird. So when you watch, sorry, I keep hitting the fucking mic.
That's good.
When you watch Come Home, and I'm not going to give anything away, but when you watch Come Home, there's an addiction thing that's in there. And so at the end of the screening, any screening that Lance and I do, we have people come up to us and they say, like, do you know recovering people? Do you know recovering alcoholics? Is that what this movie's about? Are you a recovering alcoholic? And I go, no, I'm not. And Lance is not. But what it was a decision that he brought, or an idea that he brought to one of our prep things. And he goes, I have a friend whose dad does this thing, and it's really interesting. And I go, wow. Because prior to that, his character was kind of flat. And I was like, huh, well, why does that happen? And so then I talked about a couple things. He talked about a couple things. Some of it had to do with alcohol. Some of it didn't have to do with alcohol. And I said, I don't think we should talk about why. I don't think we should explain why. There are things that he does to do it, but I don't blatantly want to come out and say this. So let's just go down that path. And as we went down that path, a lot of his decisions that he was able to make were just really interesting because I wasn't saying why. And then we got to a point in the edit where I'm like, I should probably put a button on it. So I'll put something in there for it to actually make sense. But before that, it was all interesting choices that he was making.
Well, not giving anything away because I want people to see this. I really do. And it's 10 minutes. Everybody should see this. They have plenty of time. But just the knocking aspect was done so well.
Oh, thanks.
Because that's how somebody would react.
Yeah.
And I was not taken out of it because a lot of times you'll see a horror movie and there's like they heard something around the corner and then they're like the way they investigate.
They do the whole, hello, you know, and then walk down like, hello, like look into the fucking barn with like swinging chains and chainsaws and shit. And they're just like, is Jenny, are you in there? You dumbass. And everybody in the audience is going, God damn it. You know,
Yeah, that's something that drives me crazy. Yeah. And I did like aspects, and it's been a while since I've seen it, but Cabin in the Woods, have you seen that?
Long time ago, yeah, I remember that.
Cabin in the Woods.
Well, they started to make fun of it.
Of itself. Yeah.
That was kind of like the remedy. That was the Band-Aid. It was like, well, we know this movie's going to have a lot of dumb shit in it, so we'll just make fun of it.
Yeah.
That was like a 90s move, like Scream. And
I think one of the best parts in that is when Chris Hemsworth, I believe, gets on the truck and he just crashes into the invisible wall and dies. And you're just like, oh my God. Oh my, where's this movie going now? I love when a movie can do that for me, where I, in a good way, go, where is this going?
Yeah.
I don't know. So anyway, that's one of my favorite moments.
I think it's, I love, what I love about horror, and the reason why I do horror, is that it's the only genre where the audience is fully in. And they show up fully in. They show up wanting to be in. Like, they go see a horror movie because they're like, I want to be scared, I want to be in. And they're also in tune with the director. They're like, the crazier you go with your technique, if your technique is showing itself, they love that shit. Because of legends like Sam Raimi and all these other guys that were doing, like, rewriting the language of cinema with, like, a 2x4 and 2 grips running a fucking camera through the woods. Like, all of that stuff makes it really fun. So the audience can be in with you. And I think you have to sort of figure out your tone when you make a horror movie. And this is the most complicated portion of it. You're like, is this cheeky? Is this campy? Is this real? Is this like hyper real? And you run the spectrum of like Sam Raimi to David Fincher, right? So you get to David Fincher and it's just like this real. And like, this is clinically real. Like this motherfucker like shoots everything 8K and then split screens performances where they're like, I don't like the way actors like it's he over tweaks everything. And then you go to like Sam Raimi, who like spins a flashlight on the floor that spins ridiculous amount of time just so you get that cool light effect going in the room, and the audience is like, well, the flashlight would never spin that long, but this is super cool. Like it's giving this really awesome vibe. And I'm always dealing with that, right? Because when you start to write something, you're like, well, it's gonna be hard. So you're like, oh, this is gonna be. So you start floating towards the Fincher, right? And then you realize like, oh, if it's too serious, and I play this game too serious, then if I don't pull this off flawlessly, the audience is gonna go, fuck this movie, because they're gonna go, I don't like the way that person went into that barn.
Yeah.
I don't like the way they do that. So you're always trying to find this like dial it in, and I like to try to dial it right in the middle, because I don't think anything that I'm saying in my movies yet is like life changing. I don't think I'm Jared Letoing it. I don't think I'm making a cult yet. So like,
Yeah.
I think that it's supposed to be fun, and I like to make movies that are exciting. And my goal is to make movies that are just boisterous again, with like, strong leading males again. Like there's a whole lot of really fun stuff that I want to bring back into my love of cinema, and hopefully the audience's love of cinema.
Absolutely. We're going to take another quick break, and then we'll be right back after these messages.
What are we doing here?
Feeling your energy. Good.
Is it shaky? Because it is.
Your energy shaky?
It's just tequila, fueled right now. I was burning hot last night, so right now I'm on fumes at this point.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Tequila, huh?
Werewolf juice, bro.
I can't do that. I have a beer, and I'm really buzzed, and then I don't feel great for the next day.
We walked into this. We're on a tangent here. We walked into this only place that was open, this like Mexican restaurant. We had no idea what was going on. And so then we're sitting there, and I'm trying to talk to these other filmmakers who I just met, great movies, and we're excited, and we're passionate. And so then these guys come over, and they're like, "You guys want shots?" Like the bartender, or the waiter says that. And we're like, what? And like, do you guys want shots? I'm like, I guess. And he kept talking us up. I felt like we went to a used car dealership and we asked for a Corolla, and we walked out of there with like a fucking like Range Rover.
Oh my God.
So then look at this clip. It wasn't anybody's birthday. And they just walk out with a full bottle of tequila.
This is for free?
No.
Oh.
No, then the tab comes. But yeah. It was like I have never been so pressured by a waiter. And he's like, "You want shots? You want a bottle? You want this?" It's like, "What brand do you want?" And the next thing you know, luckily, really great filmmaker I was hanging out with, he ended up picking the tab up. I'm like, "Dude, and he's like, "No, I'll get it." I'm like, "Okay."
That's nice of him.
Very nice of him, considering, he wasn't expecting to,
I can't
get the birthday experience.
I don't haggle. I don't. When somebody's pushy with me, I'm just like, I'm out.
Oh, I didn't. Oh, okay.
So,
you
I'm
just
like,
walk away.
Yeah. I'm just like, no.
Yeah.
No, I have to be out by this time. No.
Yeah.
Because it's the culture thing for me too, as well. Yeah. And I'm yeah.
Yeah. See, I drive my fiance crazy now that I'm getting older. I've sort of processed what level of conversations I want to get into, and so sometimes I'll just be in a space and someone will start bringing some sort of drama, and I'll just go, no, and I'll just walk away.
There you go.
And she usually is standing there going like, huh, and I go, I don't want to deal with this.
No,
I'm out.
So fun fact about me, I have been obsessed with Dante's Inferno since ninth grade is when I was first introduced to it. And I've always had this intrigue of any person's journey through hell, and when hell is like mapped out to where it's extremely visual. And I've recently been delving into the Hellraiser movies. Been watching a lot of
the originals.
Yeah, and
some good, lot of stinkers in there. A lot of stinkers in there.
Yeah. But and then also the comics have been very interesting with those with that series, and the Leviathan, I think it's called, like the thing that controls basically this hell, and yeah, have you ever had any interest in that kind of aspect of horror?
Sure, yeah. I mean, years ago, I did a music video for this very famous heavy metal band called Meshuggah. And so they had sent over a album cover treatment that they were doing, which was essentially sort of this weird sort of bald, pale character that had 3 arms, and he was sort of almost in like a Indian sort of deity pose. And so we looked at that, me and my old business partner at the time, we looked at that and we were like, this is like a demon. And we wrote an idea that was going to be like the 12 stages of hell for this music video. And so we were going to follow this character who just sort of like gets dropped into hell and has to make his way to this demon god.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was pretty rad, man. And for a while we were doing 12 levels of it, and then then the label cut our budget. So then it ended up becoming three levels of hell. But we did all the research on it, and it's pretty rad, man. It's a cool thing. It's a cool thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I really, really love it. I even have this series of books, which someone has taken Dante's Inferno, Dante's, Purgatory and Paradiso, and made like modernized, rewritten versions of them with modernized artwork.
That's cool.
Yeah, and so instead of having these like amazing historical figures that get mentioned in hell, it's like celebrities that you would recognize, or like authors within the last 200 years or 100 years. And you're like, whoa, this is the impact I felt reading it must have been the impact for people back then when they read Dante's Inferno for the first time, and they're like, whoa, like this very visualized aspect of hell. And especially then, especially with the church, what was going on, people's I don't know. I feel like there's always something special when people envision hell or heaven, you know?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, right? Like,
it's personal. It's very, very personal.
It is very personal. And I think that when people ask me what scares me now, right? Because, I mean, I've seen almost every horror movie. And, I am constantly on the hunt to find something that makes me feel as scared as I did when I was 13 years old and I watched like Nightmare on Elm Street for the first time. Like I'm always looking for that. And I think the thing that scares me the most is as you get older, you start to lose control of your body. You start to lose control of your functions. You start to lose control over your mind. And that stuff to me is super fucking scary. And that was a big portion of what 12KM was about, was like your inner voice suddenly not belonging to you and it's someone else's inner voice, which is crazy. And then even through like Who's There and even Come Home, it's all of this sort of struggle of control and struggle to keep and maintain the life that we create. And I feel like that's a big thing that we do as a society, right? Like we are young, we have aspirations, we look for those aspirations, we try to find the partner of our life. We want to have kids. We want to have a safe place for it. We find our money. Then we sort of build fences around it. And we try to keep it for as long as we can. But it doesn't matter how big your fences are. It's just going to go away. Like it is. And that's sort of the struggle. I think that's a lot of people's personal hell, is like sort of the trying to maintain what they think is the best part of their life, And I think that that to me is... I think the what is in our consciousness and how we think about things and what is actually going on in our brain is like the last sort of undiscovered country that we have, because we've been to the bottom of the oceans, we know all that shit. So for me, whenever I'm sort of designing some sort of hellscape, it usually goes internal, and it usually goes in your mind, and it goes to some weird places in there, I think.
Yeah, that's
what I like about it. I mean, Dante's Inferno is oftentimes I feel like that's a romanticized version of hell, where it's like there are demons and there are specifics, and there's this level and this level means this and then this level means that, and it's like very specific. It's like a roadmap to go through it. I'm a lot more fascinated with the shit that has no maps, and you're just like, huh? What's going on? Why can't I use half my face right now? What's happening?
Yeah. There is, I forget what it is, in Tibetan Buddhism or Chinese, not folklore, but there's like a hell. There's like 1,000 different hells or something like that.
Wow.
There's a hell of like being torn to pieces, a hell of being filleted alive, a hell of being like hungry, a hell of being thirsty, and the souls apparently go through that for an undisclosed amount of time, depending on your transgressions, and almost like a purging process. And I was like, oh wow, that to me is like so interesting, because then I start thinking of the logistics, and I know that sounds kind of silly, but
Yeah.
like for instance, like let's say you're in Dante's Inferno, one of the circles of hell being the tempest of lust. You know what I mean? Eventually, after like I don't know, 2 weeks of being thrown around in this tornado, are you just kind of like, all right, this is,
Yeah.
you know, do you start to find some enjoyment, or
Sure.
or like the people who are buried upside down in pits of fire? I mean, at a certain point,
At what point do you just go like, but I'm dead though?
yeah, you know what I mean?
Like,
Yeah.
does this actually hurt? Because I'm dead though. That's weird.
Or the people who are in the muck of this sludge or whatever. Do you still carry conversations with other people around you?
sure.
You know, it's like, no, I like this spot better because I actually get to rest my elbows, you know, more comfortably.
They have better.
Yeah.
They have better burritos on level 3.
Yeah,
you
or
know.
even like purgatory, where it's just a bunch of people hanging out on one level, you know, and it's just like, what do you guys do all day? You know, it's like those silly little questions, but that's where I find the most interest of where stories could be told.
Yeah, dude, 100%, 100%. I mean, it all depends on how you believe in things and what you believe in. I won't go too far into that, but I think that no matter what, these stories are there to sort of help explain what people are going through. So when you start talking about purgatory and the hell of purgatory and all that, it's really a personal fucking thing, right? It's like, was that person in depression? What is that person going through to be in purgatory? And I get it. Like, you're like, if I die and I don't do these things, then I go here, right? One would assume that there's a level of control that comes with those stories.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they're put in place for that reason, and, you know, pass around the basket, make sure we fill it up, kind of thing. But also, there is this is what we're going through. We can't explain what we're going through. Like, we don't know what depression is. We don't know about the chemical imbalances in our brain. We don't understand how this stuff is actually happening to us. So let me write you the story about purgatory. Let me write you the story about this. And it's a good way. I mean, can you imagine not understanding what asthma is? Because I have asthma. I have like chronic fucking like weak lungs asthma shit. And so randomly, if I'm around some dog, I can't breathe anymore. Like, what kind of story do my parents tell me when I'm a kid in the fucking dark ages? Like, well, that's a haunted dog. You know what I mean? Like, that's a haunted dog. So you want to stay away from those dogs because they don't fucking know. I love that stuff. I mean, that's what my job is. My job is to create myth and to create stories and to create things that are scary and sort of process the world that we currently live in right now. And even though we can look back and go, well, a bunch of idiots, they didn't know what the bends are. Well, we do a lot of stuff today and we think we're super smart. And you're like, really? So there's still plenty of really cool things that we go through as a society that we still can't explain, that I can play with and go, all right, well, there's a legend of a, you know, long-fingered crazy person that is chasing you around. That's why you feel like a, oh, what is that?
Wow.
I just pointing.
I mean,
Just
he has pretty long digits.
Somebody called me hag hands on my YouTube channel.
Oh my god!
Oh,
What was the video?
It was so I have a YouTube channel that's we just talk about the video game Dead by Daylight. It's like a asymmetrical horror game and everything. And there's a character called the Hag, and she's got really long grotesque fingers, and I had my hand casually laying in a way where it looked just like her hand. And you're making a face already.
Yeah,
Yeah.
is that you casually Hold on,
Yeah.
we're over on our time on Adobe. We have to like say goodbye to the Adobe listeners. If you want to listen to the full episode, tune in tomorrow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Follow at Mike Pecci,
Yep. That's
Instagram,
it.
everything.
Instagram, yep.
Ask him to see his movie.
Yep.
And the show continues on. Sorry. Yeah, you're going like this. That's crazy.
That's how my foot does it too, and my wife calls me out about it. I've always been double jointed in my arms and legs and everything. That's just how my hand will naturally.
That's pretty.
That's weird.
It's pretty. Yeah, it's pretty cool, man. That's pretty cool. Whatever you're able.
I didn't
to
know
do
that
there.
was weird.
Mike's like, I wonder what kind of monster
Yeah,
I'll
that's pretty
cast
cool.
you
That's
in.
pretty cool. I mean, I not really warranted to make shame your hand.
Yeah.
I thought it was hilarious.
Unless
though.
you're doing
It's-
some creepy hand videos.
No. I was sitting and my knee was up, and it was just casually.
Yeah.
They said, "Look at this guy's hag hands."
I mean,
over
it's
here."
kind of surprising. Maybe that's what that was. It's just people being surprised, going like, I don't know how else to say this, but like your hand looks like fucking zombie arm.
That.
You know what I mean?
Oh God.
Yeah. And the pleasure that you get from it says something about you. It says something about your character. I enjoy that.
I
about
hope
you.
so.
I enjoy that about you.
Man, that's so crazy to write that on somebody's video.
Although put your hand back out of the light. I don't really.
That's
wanna-
fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
My God.
I'm queasy.
Tuck it-
I'm queasy.
tuck it away.
I'm queasy.
I'm crazy from looking at your hands.
Last night's tequila. You're bringing it back. Get it out of here.
My God, man. I am looking. I don't think we talked about this on the podcast I was on with you. But my favorite all-time horror films are The Conjuring and The Insidious.
Those are
the
great.
First two.
Those are great.
First two or three, yeah.
James Wan crushed those. Yeah, he crushed those. And like, the idea that they're all based on actual people is great. That always pulls the audience in. And then they're also connected to what's the fucking haunted house movie that they're all connected to?
Haunted on Hill House?
Amityville. I think it's
Amityville.
Amityville Horror,
Yeah.
which is great. And so like it's this weird sort of sub-genre of a pre-existing horror film, which is pretty awesome too.
Oh, I got to bring this up. I went to the Zach Bagans Haunted Museum.
Which one's this?
Did I tell you about this?
No, I didn't even know he had a haunted museum.
Haunted Ghost Adventures. Are you familiar with this ghost hunting show called Ghost Adventures with Zach Bagans?
You can go down a rabbit hole so easily
Yeah.
with this, and I highly recommend
What
it.
is okay? What am I missing?
Well, first of all, it's just ghost hunters, and I love the first like 8 seasons.
Yeah, true
because-
TV.
True TV, yeah.
Because it's true. It's,
yeah.
real
It's
true.
so true.
Very
It's
true.
Yeah.
But what I loved about Ghost Adventures in the early seasons is it was literally just 3 friends with like cameras ghost
some,
hunting,
like
and it was an
little-
adventure.
PKA meters, and they're just out there.
Yeah, but it was like filmed okay. It was like amateur enough to where it wasn't super amateur where I wanted to turn it off, but like not professional where I'm like, oh, you guys got a bunch of B footage like from somebody else. Anyway, and the host is kind of ridiculous. He is kind of ridiculous and really intense at moments.
Yeah.
And kind of mean to his other friends. Eventually, he just got meaner and meaner, and it's just crazy. Anyway, he's over the years and years and years, he's collected all these like haunted artifacts. And I went to his haunted museum in Vegas.
Oh, it's in Vegas. Oh, cool.
Here's what I suggest. They have. I did the regular tour, which was fine, but you get a lot of history with everything. But I would recommend doing the at night haunted flashlight tour.
Oh, cool. I like that.
I should have done that one. There was one thing called the Dybbuk box. Have you heard of this? It's literally the most haunted item in the world or whatever.
Okay.
There's a history that goes with it that I don't want to botch, but the reason I'm bringing this up is this. I was like, they show you all the other artifacts, and it was fine, cool. There's like some theatrics associated with it, which is fine because you're in a haunted museum and it's Vegas.
Sure.
But this thing, the way they reveal it to you, I was like, oh, I'm stashing this away for whenever I'm in a horror film.
Okay.
They build up to it pretty heavy.
Okay.
And then you go into, and they're like, if you want to come into the room, you can. If you want to stay here, that's fine. We'll come get you guys.
Psychological. I get
Right,
it.
yeah.
It's doing good stuff.
Right, and I know the tricks, so I'm like, whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
But as the doors open to this place,
Mm-hmm.
and the box structures and the layers, it's sealed in, because there's like glass with this, like, I believe it's like Hebrew prayers all around to, protection.
Mm-hmm.
And then the music that's going on, and it's not music, it's like this weird subwoofer of, I don't know how to explain. And the lighting, it looked like a fucking horror film, but I was like, oh, I'm feeling this right now. Oh shit.
Yeah.
They got me in just in that one part. And then
Sure.
you leave and you're just like, okay.
Sure.
But it was pretty cool. I think you should go experience it as a film director.
Sure.
And as a storyteller.
Sure.
There's definitely stuff you would
I'm into it. I have to go with actors, though, because I feel like I have to go with a few actors that have the ability to be like,
I can imagine myself.
I'm in my scene.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But don't go with other people like in the group, because I can't stand other people in most tour groups.
Uh-huh.
Went to the Winchester House in San Jose, California.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of this. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Woman who was heir to the Winchester rifle.
Mm-hmm.
Thought she was being haunted by a bunch of the victims of the
Bullets.
bullets.
Yeah, yeah.
So she talks to a psychic who tells her you have to build a lot of rooms.
Yeah. Good psychic.
Good psychic.
Yeah.
She
Also
made
has a
bank.
deal with his brother-in-law, who's the contractor in the area. It's just like,
Yeah.
don't worry, I got you.
And I was in this tour group, and this we'll end it on this. This lady who was in our tour group, God bless her, she kept commenting on every single thing the tour guide
said.
said.
The best, yeah.
And sometimes, if there was more than 10 seconds of silence, she would have to say something, because God forbid there be silence on a tour like this.
Yep.
And then she said one of the most annoying / best phrases ever. It was apparently, it started to like rain and we could hear it. And she's like, oh, it's raining. That means there's a rainbow somewhere. She looked me dead in the eye when she said this.
This is the point when I would go, nope. I would just sort of walk out. That's the point where I go, no, don't have it for you. I don't have anything for you. I'm out. I don't have it.
I mean, what do you say to somebody who looks you in the eye and says that to a stranger? To a stranger. Also, the worst person in the world she could have said that to.
Yeah.
That is true.
I believe that. Yeah, I believe that. Out of all of the ghost stories.
Anyway.
But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, there's some haunted stuff that I think is interesting. I have you been to the I forget what it's called. It's like the Monster Museum over in Hollywood. It's like the
Hollywood and Vine, just walking outside, right?
It's yeah, right here. It's in that fucking camper that's up front. Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
No. It was down in like Hollywood, and it's the place that you go and they have like the casts of all the aliens and like the stuff from Aliens and all that kind of
Ripley's?
stuff.
No.
There's a new one there. It's like
Oh.
I forget what it's called. It's like fucking bad guy creatures. I'm doing a bad job with it.
Bad guy creatures.
Yeah. Bad guy creatures.
I want a shirt that says bad guy creatures.
Yeah.
Now.
I forget what it's called, but it's great.
Yeah.
A great ad for it. It's great. But you go in there and they have like all the costumes from all the stuff and like the casts of like the aliens and the casts of the predators and all that kind of shit. It's really fun. Like that stuff I find cool. But I go into that less to be like, but more to be like cool. Like the technique is really interesting. It takes a lot. Like we like to do Halloween parties and we like to do that stuff. I like to light our house and make it creepy and do all that kind of shit. It's fun. I enjoy that, but it's a rare occasion that I'm freaked out.
Yeah.
And I think I'll tell this story. I wanted to make this into a short, and I don't think I'm going to. But the last time I was freaked was back in Boston. I lived in Boston. And I was hanging out with an ex, and we were watching TV. We went to watch a movie, and a car alarm went off. And it was kind of annoying. And the car alarm went off, and we were just like, okay. And so then we just turned the television up and watched TV. Watched the movie, stopped the movie, car alarm's still going off. And it's just sort of going off in the background. I'm like, okay, all right. And then I'm in there brushing my teeth, and it's just been this annoying sound that's in the background, and it just sort of registers where you go like, why has nobody done anything about this car alarm, right? And so like I'm in my boxers and shit. It's like October. And so like I go downstairs and I'm on like they call them shotgun apartments at home. They're just these long apartments and they're 2 floors. It's like an old house that, you know, the greedy fucking real estate people split into 2 apartments. And so I'm on the top floor. I climb down the stairs and I just open the front door and step out on the porch and I look in the direction of the car alarm. And my neighbor comes out and stands right next to me. And he looks in the direction of the car alarm. So very like The Burbs, you know. So we're both looking down the street. We're not even looking at each other, but we're just sort of drawn to this thing. And it's like, hey, I forget his name. It was like, hey, Charles. And he's like, hey. I'm like, we should probably go look at that. And he's like, yeah, we should probably go look at that. So I'm like, okay. And so then we start to walk down the street. We're walking down the street together, and we're just looking in the direction of this. We're not really conversing. We're not comforting each other. We're just sort of in the moment, and we're just sort of walking down the street. And it's dark, and it's cold. It's like New England, dark, cold, and it smells of, like, dead leaves. There's all sorts of shit, right? And so, like, you're walking, and as we get closer, the street lights are out. So, like, street lights out, street lights out, street lights out. I'm like, okay, all right. And so then we walk to the end of this dark house, and there's this long driveway that goes down into the back of this place. Very dark. Like, it goes from being dark to dark, right? And we're standing at the top of this driveway. And I just look down the driveway, and there's this vehicle in the blackness with its driver door open and its red parking lights on, and the car alarm's just going off. And I look at the guy that I'm with, and he looks at me, and I go, nope. Not doing it. This is that scene. This is that scene. This is the hello. This is that fucking scene. Not doing it. And he's like, you're not doing it? I go, nope. I'm walking back. So I slowly walk back to the house, and I'm like, not going to do it. Not going to think about it. Went back to the house, and I'm like, we'll call the cops. We'll figure something else out. And that was the last time that I was creeped out.
Wow. I would have died.
Gone down?
Yeah, I would have gone down. I'm like, let's see it.
Nope. See, you're that person that
I'm
you
that
watch
person.
that fucking movie and you go, this guy, Jesus Christ, you don't go down that driveway.
There you go.
That's my superpower. Being a horror film director is that you'll never catch me going into a barn with swinging sharp things or someone's basement. You know, they hear some noises down there and they go down there, or like,
yeah,
there's been some gun shots somewhere and I decided I'm going to go check it out.
Yeah.
You know, Lance is that guy. Lance will do that shit.
Lance, maybe it's actors.
He's got a Wolverine complex. Like, he wants to go be Logan. Yeah,
he does.
Yeah. So
Which Logan?
Which Logan?
Yeah, like towards the end Logan or beginning Logan?
The old guy one.
The Death Wish Logan or
at the back end. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Not, dude. I've spent enough time crafting these things. I just sort of walk in there and I go, I'm making notes. This is a good story, but I'm not the end of this. This isn't my end.
Before we go, are you working on anything right now?
Yeah. So we, the 3 films are out and about. We just released Who's There for the public to ask and beg my permission to see. So you can write to me and send me your 3 favorite demonic horror movies about demons. And if I like those movies and if I think you're cool, then you'll get a link to see Who's There. Then Come Home is in festivals.
Nice.
And so we just screened last night at Pasadena. the 20th, we screen for Hollywood Shorts over in Hollywood. So that's going strong.
That's a solid film. Honestly, man, really really great work with that
Thanks,
one.
man. I appreciate you. And then the podcasts are going insanely crazy. So In Love with the Process we just did our 300th episode.
Mm-hmm.
And then, 300 numbered episodes, probably more realistically like 450. But
Wow.
did that. And then our new show, Right Place, Right Time, which you're on,
Mm-hmm.
which I think your episode is going to drop either next week or the week after.
Okay.
Or the week after.
Which would be this week, because this comes out in 2 weeks.
Yeah, it'll be around then. So
Right.
then that show's going really great. And then Lance and I next week are going to Vegas, and we're doing a podcast series from like some swanky presidential hotel suite in Vegas for NAB, which is like the
Awesome.
big nerd convention that's out there. And so we'll be out there interviewing folks there from Adobe, from Blackmagic, all these different people that work in the industry, plus some like weird filmmakers and fun people. And we'll probably get into some trouble. Lance has never been to Las Vegas before.
Oh, get him into trouble.
Yeah.
Go to the Zach Bagans Museum if you
Yeah.
can.
We'll go to some dark museums. Let's just
Yeah.
say that. I'll just say that.
Oh, dark museums.
Mm.
I don't. Lance, be careful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm
All
a
right.
mid-40s guy still acting like he's 20-something.
Okay, all right, cool.
So then we'll do that, and then we're in the process of wrapping up our new feature script, which we're going to go full throttle on
Nice.
and really make this thing happen. So,
Great.
yeah.
Cool.
Busy. Too busy, as always.
Well, thank you for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me on, dude.
This was a
fun.
blast. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I really had a good time with yours as well, and can't wait to see your next stuff. And I'm gonna watch the rest of the films that
You know, watch 12
you like.
p.m.
Yeah.
It's subtitled.
That's okay.
You know, it's in Russian.
That's okay.
I shot that whole movie. I don't know Russian.
That's
I don't know Russian.
wait. You don't know Russian?
No, I did a whole movie in a
Okay, we're gonna have to have you back on then and discuss this whole thing. No, seriously, we're gonna have you back on because
Sure.
that seems like a whole
Yeah,
thing.
it's a-
So
it's
this
a
will
big-
be part 1 with Mike Pecci. I feel like, and then part 2 will be me actually getting some rest and my supplements and vitamins.
Yeah, come listen.
And-
Come listen to my show if you like the way I bullshit. We do it on the show all the time.
In Love with the Process and Right Place, Right Time.
Right Place,
Message Mike Pecci to see his films. Peyton, play us out. Thanks for listening. Really appreciate you guys. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, bell icon, and comment below on. You know what? Comment below your favorite horror film. And maybe we'll all disagree with you.
Yeah, and
All right.
your hands aren't that creepy. Your hands are cute.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right, hag hands, Peyton. All right.
Wow.
Always remember to listen, think, and then talk. Bye.
See ya.